In this video, we are going to learn how to classify matter. So we're going to start with salt water. This is going to be salt dissolved in water. So first of all, can it be physically separated? Yes, it is possible to physically separate salt water. What you could do is you could distill it, meaning that you could evaporate off all the water, and the water would be in one place, and then the salt would be left behind. So it is possible to physically separate salt water. That makes it a mixture as opposed to a pure substance. The next question we ask is the composition uniform? If you look at salt water, it looks like it's all one thing, and that is absolutely true. It is therefore a homogeneous mixture. Specifically, it is a solution. So what we can say is that salt water is a solution. We could say it is not part of the problem, it is the solution. Okay, so milk is the next thing that we're going to categorize. So can milk be physically separated? Absolutely. You could put milk in a centrifuge, which you may have learned about in biology. You could spin it around and you would get proteins, for the most part, I think, that will be at the bottom of the tube, and there will be more of a liquidy substance at the top. So it is definitely a mixture. Now, is the composition uniform? This is where it gets a little bit tricky, because we're going to say that it is not uniform, and that puts it into the heterogeneous mixture category. Is it a colloid or a suspension? It is a colloid. So let's explain why. If you were to take milk and dilute it, take a drop of milk and put it in a big beaker of water, then you would find that the milk, it's almost clear at this point, but if you shined a laser through it, you would find that you could see the laser beam all the way through the milk. Again, it looks almost like water if it's that dilute, but you will see the laser beam bouncing off of tiny, tiny particles. And so this makes it a colloid. So milk, there we go. This is because the particle size is too big for you to not notice the light reflecting off of the particles, and yet the particles are still very small to the point that you could leave milk out for a very long time and it won't settle. So milk would be a colloid. Colloid. Muddy water, on the other hand, well, it can be physically separated, and you could actually filter it with really good filter paper. Or if you wanted to, you could also distill the water out, and it would leave behind some sort of mud, dirt substance, and the water would be separate. Is the composition uniform? I'm going to say no. And you can kind of see it visibly that that muddy water is not all the same thing. You can see inconsistencies in it. Now, is muddy water a colloid or a suspension? The question is, does muddy water settle and you can see the separate substances? The answer is yes. So muddy water is going to be a suspension. Again, if you leave it out, it will settle and you'll very easily see that it's multiple substances. So this is a suspension. Now, on the other hand, there are pure substances. So sodium chloride, yes, it is made up of sodium and chlorine, but you will not separate sodium chloride into sodium and chlorine through a physical process. You can heat it, it won't separate them. You can, not without decomposition anyway. You can, try distilling, it won't work. You can try filtration, that will never work. So Sodium chloride is definitely a pure substance. Now, it can be chemically decomposed. And although theoretically you could heat it to 1 billion degrees and it would probably separate, a better way of doing this is to do what's called electrolysis, which is running electrical current through it. If you ran electrical current through sodium chloride that is melted into the liquid phase, it would actually turn into sodium and chlorine. So through electrolysis, you can separate sodium chloride into sodium and chlorine. So we'll call it a compound. Finally, we have oxygen. Oxygen is not something that can be physically separated. It is a pure substance. And can it be chemically decomposed? It cannot. So oxygen, which has the formula O2 if it's atmospheric oxygen, the stuff that we're normally breathing in, this would be an element. And I'll just point out that anything where you read the name, like oxygen or chlorine, and it's something that you can see on the periodic table, then it would be an element. Steel, on the other hand, it seems, it's a pure substance. Maybe you don't know that steel is maybe you think that steel is made of one element. Well, if you look up steel on the periodic table, you will not find it. And that's because steel is actually a combination of both carbon and iron. So that would take it out of the element category. So let me know if you have any feedback or any questions in the comment section below. Thank you.